What's going on YouTube? This is Amani from Team R4S.
And this is Corey from Team R4S.
Once again, we're here to bring you with another video for our tips and tricks guide. This one is going to be on the Son Goku, the Super Saiyan God one that we were using. In the ARG Enrichment, I placed in the top 8 with this list, and Corey got first seed in the 1K with this list. So we were just going to go over a couple of things about the decks. You will note in these decks that though most of the cards will remain the same, you'll note some different quantities, and you may even note some different card choices towards the late game. So we're going to get into a little bit of why we did what we did, so that you can get a better understanding of where we were going with the decks. So, of course, for those who don't know, the leader is Goku. When he attacks, you untap a blue energy on this side, and on this side, you untap 2 blue energy when he attacks, and you draw a card. Another important feature about his awakened side is while you have 5 or more energy, he's permanently 5,000 points stronger during your turn. It's a very important effect for when you are pressing aggression, because your opponent has to put 10k into his combos. Even if you're just attacking for the untap ability, or if you're trying to trade large characters, it's very, very powerful to have 20k into your leader, since most leaders are awakened 15k, and as a result, I have to put out even more than usual to block just the leader. All you're really trying to do in most cases is get your energy back and draw your extra card. So, from there, we're going to go into the core, and so, most of the beginning card choices that we did were the same, because for the most part you'll see these cards in all the God Goku decks. The 3 result of training. Some people play 4 of it. It's a pretty important card in this deck. Without the result of training, it's going to be a very long and difficult game for you. Son Goku does not self-awaken, and so without a self-awakening, he's significantly less powerful than he is when he's awakened.
He also happens to be extremely potent when he's awakened, but he's over 5 life. He's one of the few cards that actually seem to be a little bit better when you have more life to play with, because it gives you an extension of your time. You don't have to focus as much on defense, and your opponent is at an immediate disadvantage, even if they're awakened, because the type of pressure you're putting on them isn't the type of pressure they can put on you.
The way this leader pumps out damage and pumps out high quality characters towards the mid-late game when he's awakened is absolutely phenomenal. And to have to deal damage to both his life, because his life is really high, and trying to remove his characters at the same time easily puts you behind in an area where you would normally be able to take a game from somebody. And the longer you draw out these Goku games, the stronger this card becomes, because you just keep pushing out more and more threats on the board at a time, and most decks are eventually going to burn out of removals. So now you go into your threats. At 4 Gotenks is here. He's pretty self-explanatory. He's probably the strongest card in this deck in terms of a character. He's literally a 1 energy cost in combination with your Goku's ability, and he's a double strike 25k. He replaces himself in the hand. He probably just isn't going to get any stronger than that in terms of a card. He's actually one of the bigger reasons why you play this as a blue-green version. I definitely suggest the blue-green being the go-to. He's one of the probably the strongest it's going to get is blue-green in this format. And it'll lead us into another very powerful green card. 4 KOs, non-negotiable, probably arguably one of the best removals in the format right now. Even it's not a hard removal, it's a very solid board clear. She helps you to regenerate your hand, and she's critical, so she applies immediate pressure on the board. Most cases you're going to find yourself, when you're extending your plays, extending from like Gotenks into a 4-drop rather simply, and Kale is probably going to be your choice, since Gotenks usually can go between Gotenks and Goku. You can usually spot remove the larger threats, and then Kale just clears up the trash and puts the pressure on the life.
She's very, in general, MVP. The addition of the draw ability and the critical is everything, especially in a deck that doesn't necessarily recoup its hand until you can get awakened. So her being able to pump out that kind of pressure is beyond amazing.
Next you have your 4 of your 10k boosts. For blue leaders, that would be Piccolo. I don't feel like he needs any explanation. He's a 10k boost. You need 4 of them. You need 4 of them. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And then you go into your 4 of Majin Buu. If it ain't Buu, it ain't blue. It's a very, very simple, very powerful one drop. It replaces itself in your hand and it gives you a free 5k boost. Helps you dig in the early game, particularly for objection.
Unlike that garbage ass card objection.
If you don't open with it, it's a very important card to help you ramp. In certain matchups, objection does become the defining card in whether or not you're able to keep up or fall behind. In mirror matches, generally the player who hits objection beats the player that doesn't hit objection, especially when you objection and you're going first, you ramp until result of training. You're generally going to beat the other Goku player because they're just behind if they don't hit their own objection. In the Mecha Freezing matchups, objection helps you to keep up with their objection, and in the Vegeta matchups, ramping quickly helps you to put your bigger threats on board without taking too much damage, and try to put counter pressure on that matchup, since if you don't actually have real characters on the board, Vegeta is just going to keep punching you in the life, and it's eventually going to catch up to you. Critical is very bad for this deck, so it's a very important card. I don't think it's a necessary 4 of, but I play it as a 4, or I don't play it at all.
Yep.
Alright, from there, I'm going to get into the defense options. This is pretty much how the deck looked in terms of similarities. Now, counting this here, we're at about 23 cards the same. Almost half the deck is the same. And it's safe to say that most of the decks you see are probably going to share about 23, 25, could even be 30 cards. Exactly the same. So now we're going to go into our defense cards, and this will actually be the rest of the extra cards in my deck. There are 3 of Lisa's Coercion and 3 of Senzu Being.
I went with 4 Coercions and 4 Beans.
Now, these are very powerful defense cards. With a blue leader, especially tapping blue energy, one single blue energy activates all of these cards and still allows you to reuse that blue energy when you're finished. It's absolutely incredible. Blue has always been the best color when it comes to defending yourself, regenerating, and managing resources, and this leader takes nothing from that. He utilizes that to its maximum, and these are the best defensive cards available right now. Senzu Being can be used offensively as well, but most of the time it's only for a play extension. Otherwise, you're generally using it to stop unnecessary aggression, small 15Ks all over the board, and keeping energy open so you can combo 10Ks. There's a lot of 10Ks in this deck.
This is a very leader-oriented deck for me. So for me, I do like to support my leader very well. Senzu Being and Lisa's Coercion tend to do that, whether it's keeping an attack off of me or whether it's extending my plays so that I can do a little bit more in the turn and get away with a little bit more in the turn.
Speaking of supporting the leader, the next half of the defensive core will be the hand traps there. And that'll be the 3 Gohans and the 4 Jackos in my list. In this particular build, I went with the 4 Jackos because I was more concerned with the Cell matchup. I didn't expect it to be so many mirror matches, and I definitely didn't expect it to be so few Cells in the format. I figured maybe they would have flocked to Cell a little bit more, considering the strength of the guy Goku, having just popped out of the last regional. And he kind of like snuck his way into the top, but I feel like people caught on to him kind of fast, so I thought it would be more Cells because it's generally a harder matchup. So I played more Jackos to combo against the Tiens, and surprisingly it helped quite well comboing against Champa in the Vegeta matchups. The Gohan is pretty self-explanatory. I played him just as a defensive card to get bodies on the board, because it really helps when you're playing in the Frieza matchups and the Vegeta matchups to keep the pressure on your opponent. Once you run out of characters, Mecha Frieza just almost doesn't even care what you do anymore. It's your leader against his entire deck, because most of your characters are going to come and get encountered.
I don't really play... I'm not a counter player. I don't really pick counters. So instead, I just kind of, once again, went for a little bit of support. In the case of Goku and Trunks, which he runs Goku also, it's actually one of his draw cards. It just doesn't run at the same quantity as me. So I just went with a little more. One, this is a pretty decent aggressive card, allowing you to extend your play, give you a free combo so you can go all out and then you know, bounce yourself back a little bit. And of course, Goku is just an easy combo off, but he also serves a special purpose in my build. That we'll get to slightly later.
Okay. Lastly, we have the utility cards. The other half of the late game. For me, that will consist of the 4 Beerus's, the 3 Gohans, and the 4 Princess Peach Vegetas. This is definitely obviously the other half of the late game, and I call these utility cards because they are more so used for their effects than they are for their attacks. They just happen to conveniently be stronger attackers. Gohan's a 15k critical. He's not that strong, but he does remove anything off the board. And Beerus is a 20k double strike that also removes anything off the board. Vegeta just helps to regenerate hand. Like I was saying again, I was pretty concerned about the Cell matchup, so I did max out on my Princess Speeds, I maxed out on my Beerus's, and I helped to include the Gohan so that I had some type of removal against him when he dropped. But the Princess Speed actually came more in handy in the mirror matches because I was able to out-resource my opponent a little bit towards the late game.
The rest of my build is Assailant Vegeta. This Gohan, fully trained Gohan. He's actually one of my favorite Gohans. He's a tech I picked up from my Goku Black build, where I would put him in play for the last push and go get myself good old Piccolo. So that easy free Piccolo can easily give you the aggressive advantage and give you that extra resource you need to push for that game. And he's generally just a pretty decently big body himself. Of course, I still run Beerus like everybody else. And last but not least, I run a couple of Constant Hope Trunkses. Now that's why I play the Goku and the Vegeta, even though Vegeta is still pretty good pressure and that extra critical can give me advantage in a number of different matchups. But the big thing is I do like him because of his ability to reuse my Trunks or to reuse Piccolo. He's extremely big, coming out at an easy 35k draw card or 30k untap a mana. It doesn't get too much better in terms of a 6-drop. In fact, I'd probably argue that he's probably the best blue 6-drop in the game right now. He's just underutilized, and he's going to continue to be underutilized because of overround cards. But particularly the big difference between what my choices and his choices largely come down to aggression. I chose a slightly more aggressive build, and he seemed to choose a more versatile build that's able to peel off a lot of damage and control a lot more.
As you can see from the final build, excluding the obvious cards that we share, because these are the cards that we share in the build here, so now you have the 27 other cards in the deck that are not too far different, but the notable differences in the builds come down to the fact that I prefer to build up more resources and take more for my gain more to myself, to generate more board on myself, to keep more cards in my hand, to keep more advantage in the resource game, while Corey's build does the exact opposite. And while Goku is a very strong leader at maintaining his own resource management and maintaining his own board presence, Corey's build really puts more pressure towards killing the opponent, taking his life as easily as possible, keeping constant pressure, and taking from his opponent. So no matter how you build the deck, the real power in the Goku is the flexibility in your build. By being able to untap 2 blue energy, he really allows you to extend what would normally be unsafe plays into very possible potential versatile plays. He lets you build up more board, he lets you keep more cards, take more from your opponent, or give more to yourself. So it's a very simple list to build, however you want to do it, and it turns out to be very efficient, as we have both learned in our adventures at the regional last week. Lastly, we're just real quick going to jump into the side deck. Now, this is where you see the most difference in our decks, where my side deck and his side deck, we have actually no cards in each other's side decks that are shared. I play the 4 Gotenks, 2 Monaka, 2 Champa, and I play 4 of the Bulmas and 3 of Whis. And so I played the Gotenks quite simply to have a card decide my Jocko's out for in the Frieza matchups, because I don't think Jocko really does a lot there. And to side in against the Vegeta matchup so I could get extra bodies on board to apply more pressure. The Monaco was obviously for Cell. I did actually have to use it one time, and it did come in quite handy. The Champa I used to try to finish off the Self-Awakening decks when I got ahead in life and was able to apply the constant pressure. But the Bulma Whis combo, I think, was the one that I was uniquely to myself, and I don't think I saw that in anybody else's side deck. I generally use these here to accelerate past my opponent if I found myself in a matchup like a mirror match going second, or in a Cell matchup and I needed to get really, really far ahead. I also sided in Sacred Guards because Sacred Guard won me a lot of games. He was a very sticky character, and being a sticky blocker, I felt comfortable untapping out my mana and going back down to 1 mana, dropping Whis as my second play if I knew I couldn't finish my opponent. Nobody was able to just push past him. Everybody had to respect him, and he really did slow down a lot of people who could have instantly killed me, I believe, without him being on board.
With a couple of Xeno buttons, some Father-Son Kamea waves, a few Goten Family of Justice, 4 Jockos, and 2 Full Power Trunks. The Full Power Trunks, he essentially would come in for my Gohans if I thought I was going to try to go for more game-ending pressure on 4. He also is a pretty decent evolve target for the 6-drop, so I could swap out the 6-drop if I thought I need more 4-drops for this particular situation. More things to drop at a different space rather than an actual finisher. The Jockos, they really kind of were for the Cell matchup. Most of this side deck actually is. But honestly, I didn't get a chance to use my side deck because we split top 8. But the objective, obviously, is to give yourself a little extra protection, bounce back TNs, annoying Champas, and things of that nature. But honestly, my main deck build was able to fight Champa pretty effectively. I literally had one opponent play all 4 of his Champas, and I think he may have gotten 1 through. And I beat all the rest because it was that easy. The Father-Son Kamea Wave, once again, pretty much a Cell matchup card, just to kind of get Cell off of the field if he happens to drop faster. But it actually is a pretty decent card in general, as it can kill anybody who's on turn. You can catch any Buhan player with this pretty effectively. Xeno Button is another I can tap out and still be okay card, and that's really all it's there for. Sometimes you have to go all in and you want to really, really pressure your opponent, so you need your kind of safety button. And Goten, I mean, he's just a good card and a pretty decent removal, especially when you can untap the energy you use to actually tap for him.
Alright, well, there you have it, everybody. Very simple list. Took us quite far. Like I said, I ended up in top 8, and Corey ended up first seed the next day. So, let us know if you have any questions or anything about him, about the deck, about the leader, and I feel like we're pretty experienced at using him now, so hopefully we can help you out there.
Yep. Definitely looking forward to see what y'all comment. So, I guess that's it from us.
Alright, guys.
Peace.